You are listening to Beyond the Verse, a Star Citizen podcast. A show dedicated to Cloud Imperium games, Star Citizen, and Squadron 42. Whether you fight, explore, unite, and or trade, we bring you news, updates, interviews, reviews, and analysis. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a pour of Radegast, and join us as we go Beyond the Verse.
Launch sequence activated.
Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 34 of Beyond the Verse Star Citizen podcast. I am your host, Solus, and I have ran out of all creativity for this podcast, and I'm calling this IAE 2953 Week 2. That's it. That's what you're getting. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday evening, 3 days before when we would normally record, and there's obvious reasons for that, in my opinion. Travel day for Wednesday, so tomorrow is the most traveled day in, I think, the whole world. It could be wrong, could just be an America thing, but tomorrow is like the most traveled day, and then obviously Thanksgiving is on Thursday. So I wanted to get this podcast out early to be a companion for if you're having to drive or fly on an airplane, and there's actually a legitimate amount of content to cover, even though our last recording was Thursday morning of last week. So it's only been a few days. So let's get into this week in Beyond the Verse Star Citizen podcast. We'll get into what we're talking about. I have a major announcement here in a few minutes that I'll break right after the agenda, and then we'll get into just the conversation, right? So here we go. Since last Friday, we of course started IAE, and there's a lot to talk about. A lot of the ships that dropped, I was able to fly and experience. A lot of you have been able to fly and experience. So we're going to be going through the C1 and Storm experiences, the Syulen, and I'm going to mispronounce that. There's going to be somebody out there that corrects me. That's fine. But the Syulen. And then I have a lot of polls regarding if you got your Idris P, your Javelin, your 890 Jump, Kraken, Privateer, which those Drake ships were earlier today. We'll get into the FAQ for the Syulen. There's a lot of good conversation there. Some updates around Soul Provision in the organization that I am going to share just because I think it's a good topic. If you have your own community, it's a fun and engaging way to use roles. We'll get into that. I'm not going to tease it too much. It was actually the first time that I've been able to get into the whole C, so I have impressions with that, the C1 impressions, and then some in-game experiences that I had with my brother, namely around like the 890 Jump and some other typical Star Citizen dynamics. We'll leave it there. But first, I am excited. I am proud to announce that next week, episode 35, we will have a very, very special guest join us. It's the one, it's the only Galactica. I am so excited to have her on. She is CIG's social media manager. I was able to meet her and Jake at my first Bar Citizen experience in San Antonio, and our friendship has kind of carried us through to this moment, and I finally have been able to secure her for next week. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be Thursday night. We will air it live 8 p.m. U.S. Central. Until then, so between now and next Thursday, this is the time to utilize our email address. So contact@beyondtheversehq.com, or you may respond to our Spotify Q&A. It's going to be, what questions do you have for Galactica? So you can go onto Spotify on the podcast page and put whatever questions, comments, concerns, emotional outbursts, anything you want. I will vet it with her first, though, because professional courtesy, and I know what it takes to get an employee from a production company on a podcast. So I will run those by her first. We might read yours, we might not. But again, email us, get on that Q&A for Spotify, and become part of the conversation. I'm super excited for that. We'll be talking, again, Star Citizen, of course, but what she does for the game. A lot of misinterpretations or misperceptions on what a social media manager does. So it'll be fun to lay it out, what she does from a 9 to 5, what she enjoys about it, ways that she's able to influence this game that we hold so dear, to ourselves and friends and family. So can't wait for that. Super excited. To this point, right? We've had, to this point in time, we've had a couple of days of IAE. We've seen the Gadek manufacturer, Apoa, Banu, Asperia. We've had Aegis Dynamics. We have had Crusader Industries, Tumbrel Land Systems. Yesterday we had Origin Jumpworks, and today we had Drake Interplanetary. So all phenomenal days, phenomenal ships. We'll get into some of the community polls here in a second on how you fared when it came to the limited hull or the quantity stock limited ships. So we'll get into that here in a second. But first, let's get into the Q&A and the polls from last episode.
Incoming message.
Alrighty. So for YouTube's sake, I'm going to actually share my screen just so you can see what I'm looking at. I haven't done that in the last couple episodes. I'm going to do it now. So here you go. Episode 33. This was week 1 of Star Citizen 321. Real quick, if you have not listened to that episode, the intention of that episode was to take you through the entire first week. And since we're recording early, there's some overlap. So we cover all of kind of the lore, all of the expectations between last Thursday and really 2 days from now, Thanksgiving. But again, we're recording early, so there's overlap. Feel free to go. Actually, please, I encourage you to go back and listen to 33 and then come back and listen to the rest of this episode. But the question I asked the community is, will you be spending more time in game or out of game on the pledge store this IAE? Let me first tell you why I went about it this way, or why I'm asking this question. I actually find myself, whether it's Invictus launch week, and I think I said this in episode 33, but whether it's Invictus launch week, whether it's IAE, the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, or really any other event, I find myself spending more time outside of the game in the pledge store to let the servers burn. Right? So a lot of you have been seeing the servers the last couple of days. It really is hard to play the game, and it's very unfortunate because you rent these ships, you're excited to get out and fly them, but in order to truly experience the fun of those ships, you've got to take them to another system. You got to go, like right now we're in New Babbage, you got to go to like Crusader, Area 18, Hurston, get out of Dodge, because the experience in New Babbage is atrocious. It makes me a little frightened for server meshing, because right now it's 150 people, and we're expecting in 2024 to have the servers wide open with server meshing, and then ultimately dynamic server meshing. So these are things that kind of frighten me a little bit, but I fully expect there to be optimization to help that out between now and when we do get into dynamic server meshing. All right, enough of that. I don't want to harp on it. This is nothing new. Every event in Star Citizen is usually, unfortunately, plagued with server issues. Now, what we haven't seen, in my experience and in my community's experience, what we haven't seen are 30Ks. I'm pretty sure they solved for that. And that, just remember where you were a year ago. Remember where you were a year ago, 2 years, 3 years ago, and how upsetting and frustrated 30Ks were. If in fact they have solved for that, and we don't see them anymore or as frequent, let's chalk it up as a win. Hell yeah, let's chalk that up as a win. To the question, let's get into Donovan Salter Green's post. So his response, I'm gonna say their response out of respect. Their response: pledge store will get the majority of my time. Sounds like similar to you. I have greater commitments outside of the game. When I do have time to play, I want my dream fleet ready. Absolutely, 100%. It sounds like this is a working individual with a family. Yep, Our time is very precious when we are able to finally get in game. I can relate 100%. Next response, Kate Chandler. Quote, a few minutes on the web store to see if anything fits my CCU chains, then way more time in game flying ships I normally don't have access to. He continues on. Side note, you are a fellow Austinite. Bar Citizen win. All right, let's go backwards. Yes, I'm a fellow Austinite. I live in North Austin, kind of the Round Rock area, behind like the Kalahari Resort and the Del Diamond Baseball Complex. So absolutely, Round Rock / Austin. And I do try my best to frequent as many Bar Citizens as I can. But like I literally just said, my weekends are precious to me. So I have to balance whether or not like this is an optimal Saturday to leave my family. I will always default family. Y'all know me by now. I will always default family. So I'll let you know. Join the Soul Provision organization, which I'm pretty sure you already have. But join the Soul Provision organization, and I will let the community know when I'm going to be at those. But I would love to meet you and everybody else whenever I can. The next post, let me go back. Kate Chandler says, kind of in the middle of the sentence, and then way more time in game flying ships I normally don't have access to. And that's like the sad reality. The sad reality is that's where I wish we could get. But the servers, like yesterday was a horrible night where my brother and I tried to game and we were glitching like into the middle of a planet. Like it was just bad. So I hope, Cade, you were able to experience like time in a game to fly ships you don't normally have access to. I don't think that's really happening for a lot of people. Anyways, let's move on. The third comment, unfortunately on the pledge store. That's from It's Just Metal. Unfortunately on the pledge store. Yep. Last comment, this isn't a question, but a comment. The RSI large miner is the Arastra, a totally new model that we voted on for last year. So yeah, this is a really good pull from the episode. Last episode, I was talking, there was another comment from week 32's post. It's getting confusing. Week 32's post where they said something about that, they were looking forward to the large mining ship from RSI. And I was like, isn't that the Orion? And then sure enough, yeah, there's a lot of intel floating around right now that it's the Arastra. It looks like, let me back up even more. I'm pretty sure this was showcased in CitizenCon or at CitizenCon in one of the videos. It looks familiar. I can't really relate it to anything that's in current existence. I mean, it almost looks like, I don't know, the Pioneer. Like it's kind of long and has like an open front. Maybe that's not the best example, but it's a large miner. It gobbles up rocks, right, and basically poops out freaking ore. That's great. I can't wait for it. If that's what they're going to get into in this week's Inside Star Citizen, it would make sense because RSI would be one of the next days. That makes sense to me, but we'll get into that little teaser here in a couple minutes. So I don't know. It's exciting. Here's my hang up. Just to be transparent and have a real talk with you. There's a couple of decisions that I don't necessarily like understand, and I don't care to understand. It's not like something I'm pursuing and want to ask a dev about. I will not be asking Galactica this next week. Not important. But if you've been promising the RSI Orion for the longest time, and it's been in production, white box, gray box, whatever phase it's in at this point, and they just like, oh, hey, surprise, here's the Arastra. What about the Orion? It's the same thing that happened with the Syulen, right? So when we were expecting not Raiden. Oh, good Lord. Here we go. So this is take one. Take one where I'm doing this. It is the Apoa Raylan? Is it the Raylan? The Raylan. I am so sorry. Yeah, the Gaddick. The Gaddick Raylan. There you go. See, I'm glad I did this. We were expecting, like, I will be fully transparent. This last episode, I made a wrong prediction. I expected there to be the Santalk Yai out of all of the roadmap updates, and it's in and out of gray box phase and passing inspections and failing inspections. I thought for sure one of the released ships was going to be the Santok Yai. For me, all the intel was pointing that direction. Okay, sure. So when it started getting closer to time and they were showing kind of, snippets of this other ship, it looked like the Raylan. It looked like the Gaddock Raylan. And I'm like, okay, that sort of makes sense. We were expecting something from Gaddock for the longest time. Let's go. And the Raylan looks awesome. It's a cargo variant. It's got, some capability there. And they end up introducing the Syulen. Not a problem, not a bad thing, but that kind of goes into my questioning is like what is the decision-making process of here, like showing the community, here is the order of events and what to expect and when to expect it. Oh, and by the way, here's something you never even saw coming, right? I don't know, just an interesting question that I don't think needs to be answered. I don't think it really matters. But out of like 150 ships, it's just surprising to see 151. And it's a ship no one, at least myself, I was not expecting, nor did I have any intel on. So yeah, I think that's an interesting conversation. One that maybe one day when I've got John Crew or Pappy on, I can start asking, ship questions. Okay, beyond Q&A, we also ask polls, going back to showing my cam. So I asked for week 1, what day excites you the most? So I broke it down into Alien Day, Aegis, Crusader and Tumbril, Origin, Drake, and then tomorrow, Argo, Consolidated Outlander, Greycat Kruger, and then Anvil. And it was actually kind of polarizing. No one voted for Aegis, no one voted for Crusader and Tumbril, and no one voted for Argo, Consolidated Outland, Greycat Kruger. That's surprising to me. 4 voted for Alien Day, so 57.1% voted for Alien Day. That was the most. And then a 3-way tie, Origin, Drake, and Anvil at 14.3%. So that was kind of shocking to me. First off, like Aegis is like your combat manufacturer. Like what it's probably the best. My personal favorite, the Eclipse, the Redeemer. It's one of my favorites, if not my favorite, combat manufacturer. So that was that. The Crusader, I expected the Crusader as well because they were releasing all the spirits, right? Spirit C1. I expected that to kind of pop. And then last, I thought Consolidated Outlander would get at least a little bit some love, because they have a limited hull ship called the Pioneer, and with Pyro coming around the corner, base building is going to be super important. So that was shocking to me. Alien Day 1. I don't know anybody from my community, nor am I familiar with the Twitter side of things, of anybody who just actively flies Alien. Usually it's the Origin for fancy, or Drake because they're homeless in space. But the Alien ships, I don't know. I feel like the newness and the aesthetics are going to die off on this Syulen, and we're going to be back to the same, rubber stamp starter ships. So that was just surprising. I don't want to get the impression I'm saying the community is wrong. I think it's interesting. It's not wrong. It's very interesting. So very cool. So for this week, that's actually it for the community side of things. For this week, again, our Q&A is going to be around Galactica, questions, comments you might have for Galactica, and then the Q&A is probably going to be laying out week 2. So starting from Thursday, when we were going to air, what are your next things that you're looking forward to? What are the next manufacturer days? So thanks for going on that ride with me. Actually, we're staying with the community. We got some polls. And the polls are going to generate some conversation. And I'm going to let this guide probably the bulk of the discussion for the next couple of minutes. So I'm going to go in order. On November 17th? What was that? That was literally Friday. So these are in order starting back on Friday. Inside Star Citizen comes out and they announce 4 ships, right? The Syulen. They announced the C1's not a surprise. The C1 we all knew that was coming. The Storm, we all knew was coming. But then the variant Storm Alpha, or AA, that was super interesting. I didn't see that coming, and I haven't seen anything about it in the roadmap updates. So that was super surprising and worth, having a conversation about. And so I asked the question, of Inside Star Citizen's announcements, which was your favorite announcement? And so I'm just going to share my screen again. Aesthetically, it's better for YouTube. But here we go. The breakout: 257 votes, 1.4 million. I wish million views. 1.4 thousand views. And here's how it broke out: 59.9% voted for the Syulen. They were most excited about the Syulen. And that actually makes sense. Like, aesthetically, the alien ship, it is sexy. It looks great. I think it's completely unique and separates itself from any other ship. Like the vertical takeoffs and the backwards landing. We'll get into some of that here in a second, about my reaction to all of that. But it's super unique. So I actually expected that. In second place, the Crusader Spirit C1, the 23.3%. Third place, the Tumbrel Storm AA, right? So that's their missile variant. And then the base Storm came in fourth at 4.7%. So nothing surprised me there. The Storm is basically a smaller Nova. And I don't want to downplay it. It's a great, one-person ground vehicle. But it's kind of, the story's been told. It's already been there. But the Storm AA was so fun to see. It has 40 or 50 freaking missiles attached to it. And the thing was just, if you're familiar with the U.S. Army, like the field artillery devices or, gunships that we have there, gun vehicles that we have there, missile vehicles, it looks like that. It feels like that. But they were sending off, 50 missiles at a time, at incoming spaceships. It was so awesome to see, and I think it does provide, maybe the Ballista is the closest ground vehicle that kind of relates to it, but there was just raw power, right, and aggression that came from the Storm AA. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. C1 was great. Storm was great. Storm AA was great. I thought it was a phenomenally done Inside Star Citizen. And not to in fact, I don't even think, I have This Week in Star Citizen. Let me just X out of that real quick because I'll just talk about it here. There's going to be another Inside Star Citizen this upcoming Thursday that already announced more ships to be announced. They're going to have another Inside Star Citizen with more vehicles that will be released. Now, here's the interesting piece. Inside Star Citizen is on Thursday, right? So Thursday is after Drake. It's after Consolidated, Outlander, and Argo, right? It's actually falling on Anvil. So it makes you wonder if Anvil has any new ships coming out, if the RSI Arastra is one of the vehicles coming out, but it's probably going to be an Anvil or an RSI. That's kind of how I'm thinking it. They wouldn't go back in time and say, oh, by the way, we forgot to let you know that there's a Kruger variant coming out. It would almost have to be one of those last or one of the remaining manufacturers, in my opinion. It makes the most sense to me. Let's move on to the next question. So similarly, these are all similar, but they have to do with IAE and kind of the sequence of events. So this next question: did you obtain your Idris P or Javelin? So this is on the Aegis Day. The limited hull ships were the Idris P and the Javelin. And these kind of all play out around the same ratio. So this 1.7 thousand views, had 79 votes. It almost broke even. So 15.2% went to the Idris P, 13.9% went to the Javelin. And then, of course, the remaining, they tried but did not obtain one this year. So the 15% to the Idris, the 14% to the Javelin, that pretty much breaks even. First off, the Javelin is $3,000. So the fact that there was so many people that got their Javelin, CIG's banking like they always do. But congratulations, sincere congratulations to anybody who obtained their Javelin. And even to the Idris, I don't want to downplay the Idris, but the Javelin that's going to be 1 in a million, right? So congratulations if you got that. The Idris P, great. Consider, if you have the Idris P, consider getting the aftermarket upgrade kit. Make it an Idris K, make it sexy, right? It's going to have that massive size 10 cannon. Go destroy shit with it. Have a great time, right? So congratulations there as well. If you tried but you weren't able to obtain it this year, luckily, Invictus launch week is right around the corner in Q1. Actually, it was April. I think it's like April of next year, so the beginning of Q2. Good luck next time. We'll get into my 890 jump story here in a second on what I know is the best course forward. Little teaser for that. Let's just go straight into the next one. Here we go. So, happy Crusader and Tumbril Day. Will you be obtaining the new C1 and or Storm during today's IAE 2953 festivities? So, this basically played out exactly the way the first vote went. So, the first question about what was your favorite announcement coming out of Inside Star Citizen, this lines up almost perfectly. So the C1 Spirit coming in first at 56.8%. The Storm Alpha, the 23.2%. Both, like they're going to end up buying both the C1 Spirit and the Storm AA 12%, and then just the Storm 8%. So I don't think that really surprises me. 125 votes. I think people spoke pretty loudly that the C1 Spirit would be one of the better Crusader / Tumbril Day ships. So awesome there. Let's keep going. All right, 890 jump. I got a story for you, friends. All right, so there I was. No shit, there I was. So I had an 890 jump, and for the life of me, I don't remember where I got it. Because Invictus launch week is 120 months, and IAE is 120 months of insurance. But I had an 890 jump for just 6 months insurance. And for some reason, that was bothering the crap out of me. So I took a huge risk. And I say huge risk, it's actually not. I'll get into it here in a couple of minutes. But I ended up melting the 890 jump in hopes that I could get it in store credit with the 120 months insurance. It just feels better for me. 10 years of insurance feels a lot better than half a year. Whatever insurance will mean when the game launches. I get it. This is not that podcast. But here's the deal. This is the best strategy for limited hull ships or CitizenCon tickets for next year, 2954. Get it in your cart. Wave 1, get it in your cart. Leave it alone. Go get some coffee. Go to work. Leave it alone. Keep it in your cart. Don't go through the stress of, I don't know, trying your best to click through it and, oh no, I messed up. Let me switch over to War Bond. Leave it alone. Trust me. Let it marinate. And then for wave 2, a couple minutes before wave 2, go ahead and have your cart up, have it ready to go. Go ahead and have your store credit entered where you're zeroed out, right? You're zeroed out, you're ready to go. And then once it hits, again, 6 p.m. US Central, once it hits 6 p.m., your F5 war is literally just processing the payment. You've taken out like 75% of the steps where all you're doing is processing the payment. I was able to get the 890 jump 120 month insurance, no problems. Wave 2, done. I was able to get, now this is where I'm, okay, Space Whale. I have the Kraken. I have the Kraken upgrade kit. And I also have the Kraken Privateer now because I'm going to melt it immediately. Bear with me. Hang around for a second. So I have the Kraken. I had the Kraken upgrade kit. And I was like, you know what? I really want to get the Privateer 120 month insurance just to have it in my buyback. So I was able to do the same thing. I put it in my cart this morning at 10 a.m. Got it into my cart. Continued working. I worked an entire day. Came home, got the kids ready. At like 5:55, I came into the office and I just started doing process payment, right? And the moment it turned 6 o'clock, boom, got it. Kraken Privateer, no issues. And I immediately melted it. So here's the last part of my advice. You really only need $3,000 to win at this game. I know it's a lot. Work with me here. I know it's a lot, but you only need that much to win at this game because you get your limited hull ship and then melt it. Because it's not flyable anyways. You're not getting crap for it. It's not flyable anyways, but you melt it immediately and then you reuse that money throughout the entire year. You can get the C1 Spirit Pack, store credits, you can do all those things. Don't get War Bond because that's new money, but just live the rest of the year off of that $3,000. And then as these limited hull ships come around, get them and melt them immediately with that $3,000. Melt it immediately. Here's the deal. Every quarter, you get 2 buyback tokens. At any point in time, you can now go back at literally any point in time. It doesn't have to be a special event. At any point in time, you can go to your buybacks and reactivate the Kraken privateer if you want it. You don't have to do any more F5 war ever again. In fact, at tomorrow's Pioneer, if I'm able to secure the Consolidated Outlander Pioneer using store credit, haven't spent a single penny this entire event, if I'm able to get that, I will never have to play an F5 war ever again. And I don't have anything in my hangar, but they're all in buyback. They are literally all in buyback. So just something to think about. You don't need the very, very expensive JPEG hanging out in your hangar. It's not doing a damn bit of good sitting there. It is a very expensive JPEG that you can't do crap with. And like I said, take that money, that store credit, and live off of that for the next year with all the new vehicles and the C1s and the Zeuses and all the other things that are coming out. I hope that makes sense. I would love to hear your thoughts. Email, comment section, let me know your thoughts there. But you should never have to spend more than that. Okay, let's go. And this is probably this actually is the last question for the community piece. It was today's. Did you obtain your Kraken or private tier? 555 views. Again, it was asked today, so that view count is appropriate. 31 votes. Here we go. Obviously, the majority tried, but weren't able to obtain for this event. That's 45.2%. But it looks like the majority of people, 22.6%, voted for the Kraken base or got the Kraken base. 19.4% got the Kraken privateer. And then I don't know how this is possible. I'm going to call BS, but 12.9% got both. I wonder if that's like a misinterpretation of the question. So I put both as like kind of a funny. I didn't expect anybody to vote for it, but that means you would have had to have the F5 war twice and won it both times. It's like wave 1, you would have had to have gotten the base or privateer, and then wave 2 gotten the other one. If that's the case, good on you. Congratulations. Like that, you've won at Star Citizen. You beat the game. I did not expect a single vote there, but out of 31 votes, 12.9% got both. It's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. I'm going to respond to the Kraken and Kraken privateer. I think it's a great conversation and one that's good for podcasts. Okay. Which should you get and why? That's a great question. And it's one that only you can answer. Don't go watch some meta BS video. Don't. What play loop interests you the most, and then get that. Here's the deal. So the Kraken base, and I'm going to round. I know these are close numbers. I'm going to round it. I'm going to kind of paraphrase. But the Kraken has about 3,000 cargo. So cargo, 3,000 SCU. It is a lot. It is a large ship, and it kind of looks that way. It's basically a ship destroyer. Familiar with the U.S. Navy? It's a destroyer that has several landing pads, but again, 3,000 SCU. So basically, it's a cargo variant, but it also has a Dragonfly garage. Very cool functionality of the game, but it's got a garage full of Dragonflies, kind of speeder bike looking things from Drake. Cool. Awesome. If you like the military / cargo play style for your Kraken, awesome. It's going to be a great capital ship in that sense for your organization. Enter the privateer. So the privateer, you're going to gut out all of that cargo, right? You're going to gut it all out. I say gut it out. It's actually the opposite. You're going to fill in. You're going to fill in the cargo. You're going to gut out the Dragonfly garage. Absolutely. And you're going to fill in the cargo space with merchant shops. Now, we can ideate all day long on what that might look like. We don't know what it looks like. We haven't seen or we haven't heard of like any official release. And you know me by now, I'm only talking official releases. I hate getting into like, well, this one content creator said this. Nothing's been officially released on what that merchant or the mercantile loop is going to look like or function. It's the same questions we have about the Banu Merchant Man, right? How's it going to look? How's it going to function? But the idea of flying this ship around and landing it next to a lake on, Microtech near New Babbage and having basically a mobile mall that your org runs is an amazing game loop idea. For me, like that is an awesome play loop that I think would be super exciting to get into. Absolutely, 100%. But you might already have the Banu Merchant Man, which is significantly cheaper, like by a third of the cost. So if you have the Banu Merchant Man, which is that's its functionality, do you need a privateer? Probably not. It's probably one or the other. So Kraken base, Banu Merchant Man, I think that's a good combination. Or the Kraken privateer, knowing that there's better cargo options out there. Here's my deal. I will more than likely, like I said, I melted the privateer immediately. I will more than likely keep the Kraken base. I have a Banu Merchant Man. I think that's a great combination. At the end of the day, though, a little bit of real talk. At the end of the day, you can only fly one ship at a time. So does it really matter? It's going to be interesting to see what happens when the game gets closer to actually launching. Okay. New content for this week, and this is very, very, very new. Let's get into the Syulen FAQ. Really, the Syulen announcement or the main page, and then the next article is the FAQ. The Gaddock Syulen is an amazing, aesthetically pleasing ship. You're seeing it on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. It looks like a, oh man, what's that food? Like almost looks like a crab cake. Like a crab cake food item or whatever. That's really what this looks like. But it has the alien aesthetics where it almost looks like the machinery is living and breathing. So the outside looks very typical of what you would expect from an alien ship. But I think what the coolest feature is that they thought of, the additional detail that they thought of, is when you get inside of the ship, the interior is decored with stone. So it feels and it looks as though you're in a cave. That is tremendously epic. I can't describe it. I'm going to have to show y'all. I can't describe it more than that. You're inside of a cave with a bunch of alien markings and alien ambience. It actually feels like you're in something very otherworldly. I absolutely love it. To the article or to the screen, first off, this video gives me like ET vibes. Like the early 80s, 1980s, like ET. That right there, that scene right there. It's like a scene from ET. Anyways, I wonder if they intentionally did that. All right, we're not really going to watch any of the videos. I don't think this is that podcast. But I will show you, obviously, the colors. By the way, I think this is actually the picture of the Tomoa. The concierge paint job for this is even more stunning, even more gorgeous. Basically, it takes the purples out and makes it like a black slate with like almost like lightning infused into the paint. Tremendously done. They are nailing this paint scheme, ship design. Crews are doing, and I say crews, the ship crews are doing amazing with the work. So here's some great pictures. I'll get into my reactions here in a second, but here you go. Right here's a rendering, like a rotating rendering of it actually collapsing and taking off. A lot of moving parts. It is very visually stunning. So that's what it looks like in flight. I'll get into my response to that here in a second. Here's 8 photos that I wonder if I can get into the interior here. Yeah, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. there, it doesn't do it justice. So here's an interior of the throne room, which you heard them say on Inside Star Citizen. But if you look at the walls, like the insets of the walls are stone. And I think here where I'm highlighting is the best place to see it, right here in this light. That slate, it looks like slate. That stone is behind everything you see inside the ship. That is beautiful. The light reflects off of it perfectly. It's absolutely stunning. Here are my reactions to it, however, and bear with me. I don't know. Actually, pause. Let me get into the technical specs for those of you who listen who like the technical aspect, and then I'll get into my opinions. So here we go. Technical specs. 3 size 3 weapons. Ooh, accidentally hit my phone. My bad, guys. 3 size 3 weapons, 12 size 2 missiles. Cargo is 6 SCU. It's for 1 crew. You could probably fly it with multiple, though, meaning you have a bed, so you can have somebody sit or lie down in bed, and they'll be perfectly fine. But it is made for 1 person. Shields, 2 size 1 shields. Its top speed in atmosphere is 200 meters per second. So halfway decent as far as speed goes. And then what I wanted to do is show you all the paint, though, the Tomoa paint. Tomoa paint. That's not it. That's it. How beautiful does that look? Again, for those of you on podcast, it's like a black slate, and the veins that work their way through the paint is like this shining gold. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, my reactions. Here we go. I'll just leave this up for aesthetic purposes. Man, okay. So, first off, remember that my stance is spend real world money on the bigger, more rare, harder to get ships, and spend in-game money on easily obtainable ships. So by that logic alone, I wasn't going to spend money on this ship anyways. But even if it was, I probably would not spend real money on this. Not as an attack or a negative commentary about this ship, but because it's just awkward enough where it's mechanics I don't want to have to worry about, right? So first off, I love flying in the third person. One of the first things I do when I get outside of a hangar is I hit F4 and I back out into third person because I get to see the entirety of my ship, right? I love flying in the third person. Well, this, let me see if I can find a good example. There, that's perfect right there. The way that the ship is laid out, where you've got, it looks like an X or starfish. You're looking behind a starfish. The long tails of the starfish block so much of my screen. And I know you can hold down F4 and back out. Like, I get it. I know you can do that. But it takes up initially so much of my screen that when I'm trying to maneuver in tight spaces, it just makes it hard. Okay. That'll take practice. Now it'll take some getting used to. Fine. I have flown this ship. I don't know if I said that right. I have practiced with this ship for probably 2 or 3 hours now at this point, and I still have not gotten used to landing. It is the weirdest landing that you can imagine. So again, imagine a starfish laying on its back on like the beach. That is exactly what this ship is. You're looking straight up in the sky whenever you're landed. So taking off is fine. You fly forward. You don't have to like hit spacebar. You literally fly forward and you're gone, right? But landing it, you have to rotate your camera to 90 degrees and then just hope and pray nothing's underneath you. And even in their FAQ, they say that exact sentiment. They say, well, you could rotate your camera to 90 degrees and land in that way. it's just a mechanic I don't want to have to worry about. How many times have you been going on a bunker mission and you're trying to land like behind a rock so the turrets don't hit you, or maybe you're trying to go in stealthily and like you have to know what's underneath you. Maybe there's like some stupid shrub that's making your 600i elevator not work, right? These are things that you have to consider. It just makes it hard. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying you can't get used to it. It's just enough. It's enough to be like, all right, I'm going to move on to like the ships I am comfortable with. Don't want to beat a dead horse. I think it's a great ship. I personally would give it a 6 out of 10. I have never given a single ship a 10. I probably never will. But I would say a 6 out of 10, mainly because of looks alone. And it is probably the best starter ship. As far as capability, aesthetics, if you're going to get somebody in the game and they're all in this game because of aliens, what a phenomenal ship to get them into. All right, straight into the Q&A. Here we go. And why am I on ships here? Oh, because that was the research. So one of the last things I have pulled up is the Q&A for the Syulen, and we'll probably wrap up shortly after for this podcast. As I hit my mic, I apologize. Gadek Syulen, here we go. FAQ. We're going to go through this. It's short. It's fairly short. I don't need to show you videos or pictures because we literally just did that. But the first question, does the Syulen fit in any ships currently available in game? Pretty sure the answer is no. It's the first ship that is vertically oriented up upon landing. As such, while it fits within standard hangar metrics, it's one of the few to truly take up the majority of the vertical axis. Which means it's not suitable for fitting in any existing ships. There you go. And it really is. It takes up the majority of the ship, or the majority of the hangar. It's kind of, it's impressive to see. That's even more, by the way, it's even more space vertically than the Reclaimer takes up. So let that kind of sink in. All right. Is there an MFD view to help with the landing and taking off so players don't have to use the external camera? Here we go. A landing view on the radar MFDs is planned in the future for all ships, not just the Syulen, but it isn't available at launch. If you want to stay in the cockpit view, you can use the compass guides to orient yourself 90 degrees and aid in landing in the interim. Cool. You know my thoughts on that. Next question. What is the ship's top speed? The top speed is currently, 1,200 meters per second out of atmosphere, and then a 200 meters per second in atmosphere. All right, is there a ship with that? Oh my God. Is there a ship with that we can compare the Syulen to in terms of stats? That was horribly written. And why should we choose the Syulen over another ship of its class and role? The Syulen, while classified as a starter, is more premium. So it sits in the same category as the Reliant Core. Gross, I hate that ship. The Avenger Titan, that's a solid ship. And the Nomad, another solid ship. The biggest I'm gonna piss off so many devs. I have nothing against the Reliant Core. It's just not my it's not my design language. We'll leave it at that. The biggest reason to choose this over the others comes down to its alien design and styling. It's also particularly well armed compared to its competitors at the expense of cargo capacity, as well as being very agile for its size and shape due to having 24 maneuvering and 3 retro thrusters. It is easy to handle. That was very impressive. Gadek uses a lot of missiles on the Raylan. Is this something that will also be reflected in the Syulen? The Syulen has a trio of bespoke missile racks, 1 per wing, and each holds 4 S2 or size 2 missiles for a total of 12 size 2 missiles. That's a lot for a starter ship. Guys, again, this is a starter ship. 12 size 2 missiles? You can cause some damage with that, for sure. What weapons does the Syulen have apart from the missiles? The Syulen comes with 3 size 3 weapon hardpoints that by default are equipped with fixed size 3 guns. Let's go. What is the Syulen's cargo capacity? 6 SCU. There are 3 cargo racks on the exterior, each of which can carry 2 1 SCU boxes. Does the Syulen have a tractor beam? There's no tractor beam hardpoint on the ship. Cargo crates are moved with a handheld tractor beam. Actually, I have a fun story that will end the podcast on about the C1. I hope I remember it. All right. Can the Syulen scoop hydrogen? The Syulen is capable of regenerating its hydrogen fuel tanks via its fuel intakes. Almost done. Does the Syulen have more or less armor than other ships in its class and role? The Syulen has comparable armor to other ships of its class and role. Question: as the Syulen is a C1 ship, does it come up with unique features that our other human ships don't have? Answer: as it was built by Gaddock for both the C1 and human market, there are features on board to suit both species, such as a toilet, sink, and the classic back scratcher. Nice. Question: what amenities does the Syulen have? Answer: everything you'd come to expect from a ship of this size, so a bathroom including toilet and shower, personal storage including a suit locker, and a bed. And that is it. I love the ship as an idea, and it does actually. This is a really good end on that topic. It bodes well for the future of alien ships. If nothing else, it shows that the ship team is super creative and they're willing to take risks. They know that it's not going to be for everybody. They know that there is a Solus out there who's going to do some podcast on landing it being difficult. Awesome. I guarantee you they knew that. It's not for everybody, but it is exciting to see that they're not just sticking with one hull and just changing kind of the outside makeup on it. It's very comforting. It makes me super excited for like the Banu Merchantman, the Raylan, right? Some of these awesome spaceships from the alien manufacturers that we're seeing and that they're being hinted at. The Santok Yai looks like a phenomenal ship. These are things to get excited about. Real quick, I do want to end on this really fun story. So my brother and I get in game 3 nights ago. And again, it's my first time really taking out the whole C. Whole C is the loaner for the whole E. So I was wanting to get a feel for what it takes or what it means to like extend landing it, which I know you can't land the whole E. I get it. But just the size of that ship. First off, called it in Port Tressler, and it was claimed, or it spawned without being connected to the docking station number 2. So docking station 2, it just didn't extract. Is that the right word? Good Lord. It didn't extend and connect to the ship. So I had to go to a community pad. I call them community pads, the ones you don't have to have a ship or you have to hail. You can just use freely. So I had to go to a community pad and then EVA 2,000 meters to get into my ship to take a look at it. So I get in it. I'm able to take a look at it. It's really awesome. Like, I want to stop saying aesthetically. I feel like I've said that a lot this podcast. The animation that happens whenever it extends and contracts, that is amazing to see. It is so well done that engineering wise, it looks like it could actually be done that way. Like the way things fold, it doesn't just fold and disappear within itself. It folds into compartments that are nested into like larger compartments. It is a very well done design. That makes me super excited for the whole E, which is like 1 billion times bigger than the whole C. I can't wait to see that massive thing flying around, right? Cannot wait for it. I liked the aesthetics. I said it again. I liked the engine rooms. Like that was very like colorful and pretty. I think the Hammerhead, it has a really good like engine room as well. It was kind of similar. At least it reminded me of like the Hammerhead engine room. It's a really well done ship, the whole C. It's very peculiar. It's very unique. Like obviously it has one purpose and one purpose only, and that's the whole shit, right? like don't get it as an everyday. It's not going to be your everyday flyer. But for what it is and the purpose that it serves, very, very, very exciting. So anyways, my brother at this point has failed like 10 times trying to get out of New Babbage. Again, he's stuck in the shit of, you know, the festivities. So he's not able to get out. Takes him like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes to finally get into a ship and head my direction. And he picks me up in the C1. So we're going to test out the C1. I have never once, up to this point, I have never once done anything with the tractor beam. Haven't touched it. Don't know the mechanics of it. I had to figure out everything from scratch. I know there's a lot of good videos and content creators out there that address it and like how to do it and the best keybinds, like Roger. There's something fun about finding it out on your own. Not in like a weird, I don't want to support anybody. It's just, I like finding it out on my own because that in and of itself is an experience. And sure enough, this night that I had with my brother, this play session, was a memorable event. We literally just took a 3,000 UEC box mission. We knew we didn't need this kind of like cargo variant for one box, but we wanted to just test it out, right? So we land at the location. Luckily, it's, you know, in a mining facility or something like it. So we land on a platform. It's all nice. You know, we don't have to worry about uneven ground or terrain. So we land, and my brother goes in, grabs the box out of one of the buildings, and comes back and drops the box on the landing pad. And was like, "All right, Solus," called me by my real name, obviously, but "All right, Solus, you know, let's see how this works." And I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like I didn't even know to turn power on, you know, to the cockpit because I couldn't find any of the buttons. Long story short, you find the power kind of off to your left down at the kind of the center console. You turn the power on. Now you have access to it. You jump in like you would a turret, and it's a virtual camera, or it's a camera that rides along the track. So on top of the C1, there's a lateral track, and that track actually bends around the backside. So you have basically, it's not 360, it's like 180 degrees of control. So it was really awesome to see the animation. You ride the track and then you kind of go down like a roller coaster, if you will. You go down and now you're underneath, you know, that little lip. But it was hilarious. We got to the point of like throwing boxes around. There was actually a 32 SCU container, like one of the 18-wheeler sized containers that we were taking and throwing them across the entire map. Like it was hilarious. But it was fun to get into the mechanics of the tractor beam and see what the potential of this could be. Like the potential of base building. I'm sure there's going to be a better, sexier UI for base building, but I took a 32 SCU and I guess a 16, like half its size. I took a 16 SCU and I was stacking them and like blocking my brother from not being able to get back into the C1. But I can see where this could become a fun game loop, all because of one stupid little mechanism called a tractor beam. It was also my first time, and this is embarrassing to admit to my listeners, but it was also my first time to play with the grid locking of like, I guess, capacity or cargo grid locking. So actually taking that 32 SCU, rotating it, which was difficult, kind of easier to get a handle of, I think, than like the Syulen taking off and landing, but taking like a 32 SCU and kind of doing that 180 turn and putting it into the back is just something you got to get used to. But I was able to put in the 32 SCU container and just seeing it lock into place like beautifully, fits perfectly inside of that compartment area. It was just a really good night where I was able to experience a lot of the cargo and potential distribution center game loop implications, etc. But that was just a really fun ending to an otherwise frustrating night where servers were on fire. Nothing new, right? Nothing new. All right. I intended this to be kind of a shorter podcast, but I think we almost went the full hour. Again, Next week, Thursday, 8 p.m. U.S. Central, we will have special guest Galactica on. Can't wait to have her on. We already have show notes ready. I have the questions ready that I want to ask her. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear from the community. What questions do you have? You can send those to contact@beyondtheversehq.com or by participating on the Spotify Q&A and polls. Excuse me as I die coughing again. All right. Join our in-game organization Soul Provision by applying at www.robertspaceindustriescom/orgs/provision. And I'm going to stop my outro there, or pause my outro there real quick. Roles in your Discord. I told you that we would be talking about this real quick. If you're an org owner or if you're a community owner, consider assigning, now this is a lot of work, but consider assigning every ship their own role. And then having a response driven role assignment. So I use Me6, MEE6, like .zzz or something. I don't know what the URL is. I forgot what it was. But I use that as a bot, and you can easily assign like buttons. And so I've got a channel with buttons where my community can go in and click on their ships and add them to their quote unquote hangar or roles to their profile. Here's the why. One, people love their ships. They love their hangars. We know that from Fleet View. Like, people love their ships. But the main reason, number two, it makes it very easy to ping a message, to send out communication. Like, I need all hands on deck. I'm going to take out the Org's Javelin. I'm going to need a Carrick, so at Carrick. I'm going to need some Apollo Triage, the Medevacs, so at Apollo Triage, at Apollo Medevacs, etc. I need a security force, so at F8C Lightnings. And then that's it. You fire it off and you go. It's not like you have to remember Jim Bob, has these XYZ ships. It's just a really fun way to engage your community. So try that. Back to the outro. Feel free to watch our video replays over at YouTube at youtube.com/@BTV_cast. Follow the conversation over at Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all at /BTV_cast. Once again, thank you for joining us. I hope this finds you well. Until next time, safe travels as you traverse beyond the verse. Take care, everybody.